Okay, some operations within the select statement. Again, that column alias is an option that can be used for the column headings. And again, that's for your display purposes. When the data is displayed, then the data is displayed with column headings. And by default, it's going to be the column name that you used in your select clause, or we're going to see a little bit later, if you use an expression in your select clause, then that will be your column heading in your display output. So you can use a column alias to represent or replace that column name. You can also perform arithmetic operations, as I mentioned just a second ago. The expressions that you can use in your select clause. So you can perform arithmetic operations. We'll see examples of that. You can suppress duplicate data. Okay? So if you want to select all of the records from the table from a certain column, you don't want repetitive data. For example, if you wanted to select find out all of the authors that you keep in your inventory of the books table, you could suppress the duplicate authors. So if you have multiple books by one author, you can suppress the duplicates and simply get a list of the authors that you have available. Okay? And again, we'll see an example. I don't know if the example will be suppressing the authors column from the books table, but something along those lines. You can also concatenate data. Concatenate means to put things together, to put two pieces of data together, or to put some data together with what's called a literal string, something in between or within quotations or single quotes. We'll see an example of that. An example of this that we will see is concatenating the last name field and the first name field. And you can concatenate the last name and first name together and possibly put that with a column alias for customer name, and then you get the last name and the first name displayed in one column as the customer name. Okay, using column aliases, you list the alias after the column heading. So in your select clause, you would select pub date, and then the column alias would be publication date in quotation marks. Quotation, publication date, end quotation. Now you're going to learn that those quotations are optional. You would use them for very specific reasons. They would be required. Okay? So you list the alias after the column heading, again within your select clause. The as keyword is optional. Okay? The book frequently uses examples of column aliases without the keyword. I'm a little bit critical of that. I would not mark you wrong if you don't use the as keyword, but I'm going to encourage you to use the as keyword when using column aliases. It just makes it a little bit easier to read and understand as you're looking at your statements. Now, the column alias, again, as I said, is enclosed in double quotation marks only for certain reasons. If your column alias contains blank spaces, for example, I said publication date. If that's publication space date, we must use the double quotation marks around our column alias. If your column alias contains special symbols, in other words, symbols that cannot be used in a database object name, then we would put that in, the column alias would need to be in double quotation marks. And the third reason why we would be required to use the double quotation marks is if you want to retain the case of your column heading. Okay, by default, your column headings are going to be converted to all uppercase. I think that would be depending on the environment we're using, but I think we're going to see our column headings are always converted to uppercase. Again, I want to keep reminding you, I'm referring to the column headings in our output display. So if you want to retain the case of your column heading using a column alias, you would put it in quotation marks. Okay, so page 37 gives you an example of a column alias. So in this example, the column alias is title of book. And because it's got spaces, it requires the quotation marks. And also, it looks like the person who created this select statement wanted to retain the case of the column heading. So again, that shows up. Let me see if I can show you the output. See, here is your column alias within quotation marks. And here's that keyword as. Here's the column heading in the display. Notice there is no column alias for the category field. So the category field column heading in the output display is category in all uppercase. So the results of the column alias is here. Alright, using arithmetic operations. You can use the arithmetic operations, or when you use them, the operations are executed from left to right. Basically, if you can remember the good old-fashioned mnemonic device that you should have learned in early elementary school, please excuse my dear Aunt Sally. Executed from left to right. Now, it doesn't mention parentheses and exponentiation, but those do pertain here. Okay? So multiplication and division are solved first from left to right. Addition and subtraction are solved last from left to right. Parentheses override the order of operations. Okay? And again, exponentiation is not mentioned here, but that would be included. Exponentiation would be processed before multiplication and division.